Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the John C. Scott Talk Show, now in our 26th year of continuous political talk in southern Arizona. My guest is Scott Smith, former mayor of Mesa, Republican candidate for governor. Mayor, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
John, thanks for having me. It's great being here.
Yeah, you take a look at these numbers and they go, well, Ducey's got this number and Christine's got that number, you got this number, blah, 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 blah. They think it's a three-way race. But I'll tell you, what bothers me about this race, and I exclude you, it seems like almost anybody's willing to say anything if they think they're going to get a vote. But that's not what leadership is, and that's not what the solutions to our state's problems are. You can't just say everything that you might be concerned about we're not going to do away with. Well, like Common Core, Medicaid expansion, the income tax, and it just seems to me that people deserve more of an intellectual discussion about the problems of the state than just take away all these things. What do you think?
Well, I guess the frustrating thing, especially for me coming from business and coming from being a mayor where you actually have to, and you can't live in a fantasy world because people do get upset with you when you don't pick up the garbage on Thursday, is to hear all the empty rhetoric. And I've sort of developed just a little test that if someone says, I don't like this or I don't like that, and I want to get rid of it, I want to end it, I just ask them, then what? It's amazing how silent the discussion is when you ask, okay, you get rid of it, then what? Because all too often there is no alternative. There is no answer. There is no solution. It's simply, well, wait a second, I'm just against this. I don't have a real plan that you can implement. And I think that's a sad state of our political discourse today. And I also think that's it's been frustrating on the campaign trail because we haven't been talking about real solutions to real problems.
Yeah, and I don't know how you're experiencing it one-on-one or one-on-five or whatever. You've got Andrew Thomas saying build a fence. We're not sure where that fence is going to go or what it's going to cost or what good it would do. But there may be people out there that say that's the only solution is build a fence. Well, it isn't. And the idea, too, that if you don't have a Common Core, and some are opposed to it. In fact, we had an interview with Huppenthal yesterday who had been a proponent of Common Core, and now he's backing away from it as fast as he can. There's got to be some standard. There's got to be some way to measure the proficiency of your student, the instructor, and the institution. So if you do away with that, where are you going? Do you not want some level of accountability? Your comments.
Well, you gotta have standards. You gotta have a goal that you're pushing for. My father was in education for 35 years. Spent 15, 16 years there at Floyd Wells. Built Floyd Wells High School. And built a culture of excellence. And that culture of excellence was established based on standards that caused students, parents, teachers alike to reach higher than what they were going for. And if you don't have those standards, if you don't work for those standards, how can you ever hope to improve? And our school system as a whole is ranked in the bottom third of the country. Now, if that's okay with Arizonans, then I say, hey, fine, let's get rid of standards. Let's don't push ahead with Common Core. Let's don't do things like that. And we'll end up exactly where we are saying that we don't want to be, and that's average. And I'm unwilling to accept average. That hasn't elevated anybody. It hasn't created one single opportunity for our children. It hasn't taken any of our kids to great careers so they can raise families and so they can live in our cities and enjoy life. That's what it's really all about. And the empty rhetoric, especially on things like Common Core, Arizona College and Career Ready standards. I asked the other day, because this discussion has become so political, I said, okay, I get it. You're against the federal intrusion into education. I don't want Washington telling me what to do. But let me ask you a question. If we told Washington, like I did as a mayor, I don't want your money and we send it back, would you then be opposed to Common Core? Crickets, silence. Because once you took the political issue away, then and tried to get to the meat of the standards, there was no answer. And once again, it gets back to our first question, which was, what do you do when you can't yell about anything else, when you actually have to sit down and create solutions? I'm more than willing to debate solutions. I'm more than willing to talk about challenges that we have with the implementation of Common Core, which we do. I'm more than willing to talk about what we need to do to ensure that what's happening in that classroom it helps our students, which we should be talking about, but we're not. We're talking pure politics and pure demagoguery, and that's not going to create a better future for our kids.
You know, these polls indicate there's about a half, at least 45% of the Republicans that have not made up their mind of the 6 candidates remaining for governor. Are you surprised that there's an uncertainty among 50% almost of every Republican that could go to the polls and nominate a new chief executive for the Republican Party? That's a really high percentage when we're only a week and a half away from people actually casting a ballot.
I'm not surprised in the sense that you have a field of 6 candidates, none of whom were really standing out there to begin with. I mean, I, of course, am very well known in the Phoenix area, but not so much in Tucson, the rest of the state. The state treasurer and the Secretary of State, name recognition, but not really offices that people follow on a daily basis. And then, of course, you've got Christine Jones, who came out of the business sector and was not known by anyone. That's not surprising. I think what's surprising to me and what gives me a lot of confidence in our campaign is that with all the money that's been spent on TV and other media, millions and millions of dollars, it's obvious that messages are not connecting. It's obvious that people are still looking for a common sense leader who can come in and not patronize them and not pander to them, but will offer real solutions. And that's what we're hanging our candidacy on. We just have to get the message out. We think that'll change quickly when we do.
I agree, and I think it's become a bumper sticker campaign, and bumper stickers are not that big. And, so you can throw Obama or anti-Obama, anything on a bumper sticker, or Common Core and Medicaid, anything that you want to say, income tax, whatever. That doesn't really explain, again, what you have just said is, all right, if not this, what? And if what is the answer, how good or bad is what? Even if you figured it out, we are challenged in this state, and I've followed it for 45 years or longer, and it just seems to me that we have the talent in this state, we have the intellect, we have great universities, and we have some very qualified political people on both sides of this aisle, and we deserve better than really what has become. I think, not necessarily in the governor's race, but you could include it, a pretty nasty campaign, that doesn't even suggest that my opponent is qualified to serve. And that bothers me because they are qualified people running against each other in the state. And it seems like we ought to discuss with these folks what their solution is to our problems. We know what the problems are. Education is in trouble in this state. Our infrastructure is crumbling in this state. And there is absolutely no question the state owes a lot of money, and there's gimmicks that so-called balance the budget. And we are looking at $316 million that the courts say you better give to the schools, and it's going to be $2.9 billion when you get through with it. So where are you going to get that kind of money? These are challenges, Mayor, challenges the next governor is going to have to face.
I found that the political discourse in our state is surprisingly shallow. And I think, as I've been now in public service for 6 years as a mayor, I've sort of come up with some. The Arizona's greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. We have what I call the paradise syndrome. At the end, I was talking to one gentleman one day, and I said, listen, we have this challenge here, and we have that challenge there. Our roads are crumbling. He said, listen, Mayor, I moved from Cleveland. The roads were crumbling in Cleveland. The schools were deteriorating in Cleveland. But guess what? I don't have to shovel snow here. I'm in seventh heaven here, and I think that feel that we're in Arizona, which is like a wonderland. Somehow the problems will go away, but they won't. And it seems like unless we really get serious and we feel the crisis, we're very crisis oriented, and it's hard to define a crisis in education because the results are slowly coming. And they are overwhelming, and we don't really see it coming, although we should. The fact is, when you don't have real job growth, unless somebody doesn't have a job and you're looking for a job, maybe isn't felt like it should be, like the lack of opportunity should be. When you talk about something like water, okay, all of a sudden now people start to get serious. But even now, with the completion of the CAP, the discussion, even in southern Arizona, heck, when I was growing up in Tucson and we were living completely off of well water, the talk was very different than it even is even now when we here in the Phoenix area and in southern Arizona we have Colorado River water, it's a very different discussion because we don't feel the crisis the same way we used to when we solve problems. And I think that's a real challenge for us here in Arizona, is to understand that our future is at risk. We have serious challenges to deal with, but we have serious opportunities that we can take advantage of. And I find it very difficult to have that conversation. Sometimes I feel like I'm in an empty room yelling and hearing nothing but echoes, because what people want to talk about are just the like you said, the bumper sticker issues. Tell me in 30 seconds, and that's all I want to deal with it.